This is the Turf Zone Podcast, your central information and news hub, bringing together professionals from turf associations across multiple states to share things to help you and your business. Brought to you in partnership with our friends at the Tennessee Turfgrass Association. This episode is sponsored in part by Sod, world-class service on demand. Visit us online at www.buysod.com. Now, let's get in the zone.
Welcome to the Turf Zone. In this episode of Tennessee Turfgrass, we're talking to Dan Johnson, Golf Course Superintendent at Jackson's Old Hickory Country Club in Old Hickory, Tennessee. Dan, thank you for taking time to join me today.
Thank you for having me.
So for this member spotlight, Melissa Martin wanted me to talk to you and hear about your background and what you're doing here at the club. So let's get started with, how did you decide to become a golf course superintendent?
Well, thanks for having me, Julie. I've been working in this industry for 23 years now. I started at age 14, weed eating and changing cups at my local country club. I grew up in upstate northern New York and have always done golf in some capacity, from outside on the grounds to, picking up range balls to working in pro shops. And ultimately, as I got closer to college, it was 100% out on the course. Played golf a little, 2 years in college down in Louisiana, and worked at a couple clubs there. And then after Hurricane Rita, I came up to Middle Tennessee State University and finished my last 2 years of my business degree there. I actually played hockey for Middle Tennessee State for 2 years, which was a lot of fun. I tried to walk on the golf team and didn't make it, unfortunately, but had a great time, and then took an assistant superintendent job down in Dalton, Georgia at the Farm Golf Club, and worked there for 4 years. During that time, I did the 2-year online Penn State turf degree.
Yep.
And I've had the privilege to work under some really, really good superintendents here in Tennessee and also in Georgia. Michael Brownlee at Stones River, worked for Michael for a year and a half, and Tim Parsons, who's one of the best friends I've ever had. He's truly a great super. I worked for him for a year and a half at Riverbend Country Club. And then I worked for Trey Cutshaw, who 4 really valuable years for me at down in Georgia, and just owe a lot to all 3 of those in different ways. Me growing as a professional, and also just quite frankly growing up. So I've been here. April 15th of this coming month will be 10 full years.
Oh, wow.
Just feel incredibly blessed to be here. I've seen this club, at the lowest of lows, and truly it's been special to be part of something that's on the way up. So work for some really great people here at this club. Owe a lot to the people who hired me here. Joey Hickman, the golf professional who's no longer with us, was one of the guys that hired me. But truly, some really key people helped me. Another gentleman named Ron Graham. He's also part owner of Champions Run down in Eagleville, Tennessee, and they always seem to come up with just enough money to be moderately successful. I mean, we were always broke, we were struggling. And then that's kind of where Steve and Leah Smith and their other business partner, who's now deceased, Al Ross, bought the club 3.5 years ago, and really just transitioning it into just something really, really great. So, owe a lot to the people in the years we were struggling to make it as far as we did, to get to the point of having the opportunity to be purchased by some members of the club. Steve and Leah Smith own some businesses downtown Nashville, and their vision's great. It's a process. It's not, construction is ongoing every day, year round. So we're always under construction, and will be for a number of years to come. But so that's just kind of how I got to Old Hickory, Tennessee. And feel really blessed to be here, and hope to, be here a long time.
I want to add that I don't normally get to do my podcast interviews on site, so thank you for inviting me. And it is really interesting to walk through this building that you shared has recently been redone. The restaurant is beautiful, and kind of as approaching the course, I can see it. And as little as I know about what a golf course should look like this time of year, I mean, it's a great drive in to see a lot of the course and then see the clubhouse and see what you can tell is new. And it's so exciting to see that it's changing. I know it's a hard process to work through that construction, but kind of a gem here that, I don't make it to this side of town a whole lot. I do come visit Yazoo every once in a while, but I haven't quite made it around the bend here. So it's a beautiful property for sure.
Yeah, the local, Nashville keeps growing out, and everything, this part of town has really, really improved. Houses are being renovated left and right. Businesses are going up. A lot of new housing is going up down the road, and just really, this golf course is such an integral part of this little spot of town in town.
Yeah.
And it's really just nice to see the golf course continue to improve, and inside and outside, and just this part of town in general.
Yeah. So tell me about membership here and about the course. Tell me a little more specifically, like what does your crew look like and how member numbers, acreage, that kind of stuff that kind of you have to sit down and do the business part.
Okay, well, let's talk about the club and the membership first. It's a really, really unique membership. It was founded in 1926 by DuPont, and it's President Andrew Jackson's piece of property. I think DuPont purchased it from one of his grandsons many years ago, but it's always been known as a blue-collar working man's country club. The membership here, the people are great. They treat me well. They treat my staff really well. There's no uppityness. It's truly a special place. When Joey Hickman, one of the guys, hired me, and my first day here, he said, "Welcome home." And that was kind of our member slogan back in the day. And it truly was. People, are always treating the staff really well. And it is like one giant family. Since Steve and Leah Smith have taken over, our membership has continued to explode. And we have a lot of unique clientele. Basically every singer, songwriter, musician in Nashville who's a golfer is a member here.
Oh, wow.
Whether it's Kid Rock or Colt Ford or Randy Hauser, Cole Swindell, Jamie Johnson. And then also, we've had a lot of famous professional golfers out here. John Daly has been out here numerous times, and we had the opportunity to do some projects out on the golf course together. We built a set of new championship tee boxes, and that was pretty neat to work with John, who was been my favorite golfer since I was like 8 years old. So it's definitely, the dynamic has changed, but the attitude hasn't changed at all, because everyone is still, even with the influx of money, and as things get nicer, dues go up, and we haven't really lost anybody, and we continue to just, sell memberships left and right. And it's kind of known as like the fun club.
Yeah.
We truly, as we continue to grow, people love coming out here and running into famous people. Yeah. So that's been a big draw. It's pretty cool. And they're all normal. No one really is, out of the ordinary. So that's been neat. Staff wise, I've got such a good group of guys. I mean, I run anywhere from 10 to 15 employees, 10 to 12 year round, and then, 2 or 3 seasonal. Back in the day, 2012, I remember we basically had, 4 employees plus me, my assistant superintendent, Randy McClanahan, and a technician. So we had, anywhere from 6, 7, 8 employees. And I just remember, as this club grows, you're and we, putting some more resources into it, so the crew is basically doubled. It's a great mix. We've got 6 Guatemalan employees, 1 Mexican employee, and it's been really fun over the years, just because I do speak I'm not totally bilingual, but I'd call it, 60, 70%.
Sure.
And so it's been really nice to be able to communicate with them, and there's some truly just great employees. It's a family over in my department too, because I try to cross train everyone. Everyone gets a different, everyone manages different. Everyone gets it done different ways. When I worked on a crew, I didn't like doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And so part of my, I guess, management philosophy is my guys know that they might be beaten down and weed eating all day Monday, but then, Tuesday they're mowing fairways, and Wednesday they're mowing greens, and Thursday they're mowing tees, and Friday they're raking bunkers. And that way it kind of spreads the load on the entire crew.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of pride in that.
Well, we need to talk about last week when I was getting in touch with you to schedule this, and you were grilling and like, hey, it's been a rough winter and we just need to get out here and like have a family meal.
Yeah.
And so you were up and moving and cooking for the whole crew. Is that a common occurrence here?
Getting back to the weather this winter, we've had some rough winters here in Middle Tennessee in the transition zone, but truly you at least get a few nice days sprinkled in Tennessee. And this year, and it seemed the weekends, like Monday through Friday was hard enough, and then the weekends would be brutally cold or raining. And it truly did. It just wore down me. It felt to the point like I wasn't being a very good manager. Everyone was, you got to keep the guys employed and keep them busy and justify everyone's kind of, being there. So it was definitely a trying couple, because there wasn't those few days sprinkled in this winter. It truly was wet and cold and windy and just brutal every day. So now that the last 3 weeks or so have been a lot of nice days sprinkled in, everything's starting to green up and bloom. I'm a lot happier. We're starting to do some other projects now that we're getting out of the rain, hopefully, not gonna do it. So we're happy to, get going into the season. We got a lot accomplished this winter, all things considered, even though it was tough. It was really just mentally exhausting when with the weather just kind of beating you down every day.
Yeah. So
guys are happy now and looking forward to a great year. Like I said, they accomplished a lot this winter, and I'm proud of all the guys. So looking forward to a good season.
Is it kind of a mix of excitement of going into your busy season and also realizing it's about to get crazy and you're about to be working around a lot more golfers on the course? Is that
it is. And since the pandemic and our unique clientele of having a lot of musicians, we're busy all the time now. I mean, we went from, I say back in the day, of doing like 18,000 rounds a year to where we're doing 28,000 plus. So the singers and songwriters, they'll work from like 7 a.m. till 1 or 2 o'clock. And so they're out here like every day. And there's probably 30 or 40 of them total. And so we've been busy, and then honestly, just all the construction, we're just, we're doing cart path work. We just built a brand new bathroom / halfway house out on the course. So that, landscaping it, built a new driving range net, and among other pretty extensive projects. So we've been under construction almost every day, and, building stuff left and right. It's fun. It's a great problem to have, because we're improving. It's not just busy work. You feel like it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot logistics, deal. I think last week at one time I was dealing with 7 different contractors, and but it's all gone well, and I've got a good crew to kind of pick up the pieces, and so that's where we're at.
Ready to roll into another busy season. That's awesome. All right, so let's kind of switch and talk about the industry more broadly. It sounds like you've got a great crew that has really been with you. Have you dealt with any of the labor challenges that we're hearing consistently across the board, where it's hard to find and keep?
Yeah. So I am blessed that I have My crew, I have really good retention, and that dynamic and crew dynamics can change rapidly, but I am blessed. I think most of the guys on my staff have been with me between 3 and 10 years.
Wow.
I have a couple newer employees, and they've done well to this point. We'll see if they continue to thrive, but the labor challenges it's tough, and inflation.
Mm-hmm.
When the pandemic hit, a lot of my employees also have second jobs.
Yeah.
The golf course industry, it's truly a fun industry. It's getting better in terms of clubs are finally starting to pay people a little more to where makes it a little more attractive, but it's tough. It's tough to make a living like on the crew. So a lot of my guys do have second jobs. And when the pandemic hit, a lot of them lost their second jobs.
Yep.
And it just put a real crunch on them financially. Steve and Leah have been so great, have stepped up numerous occasions, have given me what I need to retain good employees. And so, myself and my 2 assistants, Randy McClanahan and Sundance Lawrence, we really try to just make it. We demand a lot out of the guys, but we really want everyone to be close and feel like they're part of something. You got to get creative in ways to keep employees in this business, because the pay is not that great unless you're in one of the higher up positions.
Yep.
And the Nashville market, it's just flat out tough. The cost of living has exploded, as everyone knows here. So really happy and blessed to have the guys I do have, and hopefully we can keep them for many, many years to come.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about being part of TTA and you having been in Tennessee now for a while. Let's talk about what are the benefits and what makes you want to be involved and want to be part of industry associations like TTA.
So Melissa Martin's first year, I believe, was probably going on 5 or 6 years. I was the president of the Middle Tennessee GCSAA, and her and I got a chance to work really close for that first year and help each other out tremendously. My best friends are superintendents, sales reps, professors at the university. I mean, it's one of the most unique industries where we are all competing as clubs, but it's crazy how close, and that I pretty much do anything for any other superintendent or sales rep, because they're all, truly some of my closest friends. And we're, whether it's giving advice or loaning equipment or, it's everyone reciprocates really well here in Middle Tennessee. And no, it is important. DTA does a lot. We really need to, and we're working on it. I did go on the board this year in an advisory role. It's one of my big passions of Tennessee, and one of the biggest benefits that we have is the University of Tennessee Turfgrass program. Countless professors, the 3 I work the closest with are Dr. John Sorokin, Dr. Brandon Horvath, and Dr. Jim Brosnan. But there's so many truly, and the research assistants, the grad assistants, 2 key guys who are retiring, and this whole state owes, so much gratitude for, with Dr. Tom Samples and Dr. Alan Wyndham. Being here in the Tennessee turfgrass industry, in all these meetings where we have the privilege of going and learning from these really, really great group of professors, it's like you're basically getting like a free college education.
For sure.
It's amazing what these guys do for each individual golf course, but the overall industry. I mean, the amount of effort and time and care that all of these different doctors at the University of Tennessee. So I tell people all the time, we have at the University of Tennessee the best turfgrass program in the country, and there's some really good ones. And I don't want to knock anyone else. I flat out think that University of Tennessee does it better than anyone else. And so I'm really passionate about doing whatever we can as a Tennessee Turfgrass Association or the Middle Tennessee or all the GCSAAs in East and West, helping out the university in any way that we can. And we've got some good ideas flowing, and we need to keep moving forward because they give us so much.
For sure. Really
looking forward to seeing what we can do and continue to raise funds for the University of Tennessee. And I don't know what all of that looks like yet, numbers wise, and how we're going to do it, but the ball's rolling, and we truly want to do whatever we can. Getting back to Dr. Tom Samples and Dr. Alan Wyndham, they have both personally helped me so many times over the years, looking at different soil samples, if I got, disease pressure, insect pressure, and they love what they do. And both of them are two totally different personalities, but two really, really great guys who the whole industry is really going to miss working with them. And I know we'll continue to see them. Both of those guys, how they work, they're not getting out of the industry, but they're retiring from their positions. And, I really hope and believe that the University of Tennessee will, eventually, when they look at filling those positions, because they're two of the most important positions in this, extension agents, and regardless of what state you're in. I mean, it's they've done so much for Tennessee in general. And I look forward to, eventually see who we replace, but it's two key positions we really need to continue and, pass the torch on to two of the next really great minds. So, personally, I just want to thank Dr. Samples and Dr. Wyndham.
For sure. After this year's TTA conference and, Dr. Brosnan brought in a fantastic lineup. I mean, it was really interesting and relevant and engaging sessions across the board. And Dr. Samples announcing his retirement or sharing it with the association that day at the awards lunch. And after that, I got to talk to Bob McCurdy, and he really credits Extension, specifically Dr. Samples, for his success and being able to get started in sod farming. And I hear that so consistently across the state, that having a person that can be there on site with you. So maybe the Dr. Brosnans and the Dr. Horvaths and Dr. Sorakins aren't, traveling around the state, going to, Dyer, Tennessee and Old Hickory, Tennessee. But having someone like Dr. Samples who's willing and able and has the knowledge and the ability to help and to do this.
Both of those guys get excited to help. Like it's never a burden. I've taken samples to Knoxville and dealt with Dr. Samples there. I've taken, samples over to Dr. Wyndham at Ellington Ag Center. And they're so excited about what they do.
Yeah.
And it's all of those guys that you mentioned, Dr. Brosnan, Dr. Horvath, they've made countless site visits to Old Hickory Country Club. I mean, anytime that there's a problem, see something weird, we're constantly text messaging, take a picture of something that looks a little off and, any thoughts, and they drop everything and immediately reach out, and above and beyond, I'm sure, what their job title, at the university is. I mean, they truly, it's a good group who helps out in any way possible. So I've enjoyed just getting to know all of those guys over the years, and just, consider all of them some really, really good friends.
Definitely. All right. So let's get philosophical. What are some changes or improvements that you hope to see in the industry over the next 10 years?
Well, I think, it comes back to, it's getting better in terms of the pay scale, but it needs to continue to go up. We need to continue to, keep paying our assistants higher and higher wages, our technicians. My number one asset, and I've got two fantastic assistants and a really, really good crew. My technician, Matt McClanahan, hands down is just a really special, talented I mean, just unbelievable asset to me.
Mhm.
You know, you want to continue to pay your key positions, but really, you know, make it to where you can make a living on the crew.
Mhm.
And where they're, you know, maybe someday where it gets to the point where they're not having to work second and third jobs and to make ends meet. So I'd like to see, would like to see that. The demand for golf right now is so high. We're slammed all the time in terms of rounds of golf. And I would like to, there's gonna have to be changes. I mean, it's a blessing we're doing so many more rounds, but you've got more cart usage, more wear and tear, golf course wear and tear. So in terms of what the next 10 years look like, I mean, we just need to get better because we are growing at such a rapid pace. So, you know, I think it's really important to continue just to treat your employees well. The cost of replacement in any business, but the turf business, when, you know, I feel like I've got about 10 guys that can do everything. So it's really good. Just continue to grow the employees. I mean, if they can't come into work and, you know, feel like they're part of somebody and part of something. So just as an industry, we need to continue to, you know, pay your employees.
Yeah, for sure.
And people get tired of hearing that. I mean, but it's, you know, every industry right now with inflation out of control, and you know, that's got to be a common theme across the board.
Absolutely.
But the cost of a replacement is way more.
Right. And in time and dollars I mean, it's a lot.
And
to
it
do.
takes a while to make a valuable, really quality golf course employee because there's so many different machines and so many different job duties and a level of care and attention to detail. And it's easier to continue to invest in the people you have than to constantly be trying to, you know, hire people cheap. And usually that comes with a bunch of headaches. And, you know, hopefully if you hire 5, one will. So just like to see each golf course, and we're getting better, but continue to invest in your people. And then the demand for golf right now and courses doing the rounds that they're doing, and you know, a lot of courses, you know, turning a profit now, just investing back.
Mhm. All right. So one more philosophical question. What would be your advice for somebody who is considering entering this profession now?
It's tough. The old school way of thinking, kind of when I guess when I was starting out, was just crazy long, you know, weekends, holidays, crazy long hours, you know, and frankly, I don't know if the generations changed. You know, it seems like that's trending in all industries, but it seems like there's no greater job on earth. I feel really lucky to be a golf course superintendent. It comes with headaches, it comes with long hours, it comes with, you know, weekends and holidays.
Yeah.
Well, we have a restaurant here, but it's a service industry job. So you've really got to love it. You've got to love golf. You know, anyone can learn. Some of the best people I've worked for over the years, you know, some have had turf degrees, some haven't. They've all been fantastic in different ways. I think you have to, you got to be geared a little different. I would say most of the superintendents I know and I'm friends with, we all have very similar personalities. Seems like most of us are all type A, most of us a little bit ADD, the attention to detail. We all, and maybe that's why we all get along so well. You've got to have all of that, but ultimately it's not, you don't just come out of turf school and go to the top. And that's tough because the pay on your way up, you got to be willing to be patient with yourself for a number of years because not everyone goes right from turf school to a high-end assistant or superintendent job, or you know, or they could go into sales or chemical and fertilizer companies, and you know, Bayer and Syngenta, and so you got to invest a lot of time I'm glad I did it. There's been times over the years where, you're just beating yourself to death with the grind and the hours. But it doesn't have to be like that. I think trends are different. And part of keeping good quality help, frankly, you can't just beat on your employees and demand, my two salaried managers, I can't demand that they work, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So I think that's good. I think most clubs are starting to get better at a work-life balance. It took me a long time. I mean,
yeah,
just in the last couple of years, if I finally, and some of that is, being comfortable with your managers and your staff, and I've been fortunate to have some more employees the last couple of years, but it's different sets of challenges. Like you start adding more employees and more equipment and more projects, and so my role's changed a little bit. Frankly, just a lot more actual management and delegating, and I would recommend this business to anybody, but it's not for everybody. I mean, you've got to have a really, I don't want to necessarily call it a skill set, because you can learn how to do anything, but you've got to love golf, and it doesn't necessarily mean, working all hours of the day, but it's a different lifestyle. You're up at 4:30 or 5 every day, and you're starting work at 6. And so it's not for everybody, but you got to love it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this is kind of just an observation over lots of conversations with golf course superintendents. And I'm just going to make an assumption that you and I represent the same general generation of, we're kind of right in the middle of like old school thinking of, well, you just have to work 80 hours a week. That's what you do. It's called work ethic, get some, versus a newer generation who has different expectations, maybe of, like you mentioned, work-life balance. And so we kind of land in the middle of, well, I get this, but I also get this. So how do we bridge the gap between the old school, work yourself into the ground, and the new school, well, I want to also have a life? I think that's a unique challenge.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of talking down on the new generation. And there's going to be a lot of job opportunities in the 5 to 10 years, because there's not as many people willing to. I'm seeing less and less kids coming up in the industry. Some burn out, might get to the assistant level, and there's a lot of really, really, really quality assistants right here in Nashville. I can think of 10 right off the top of my head that could go take any head job and across the state, getting that opportunity. But yeah, in terms of the work-life balance, it's changed. That old school thinking of grinding long hours, it's not really something you can frankly even do anymore. That's part of the reason why I think the numbers in this business, I think a lot of people will have a lot of opportunities, because there's not as many people filling the roles when positions do come available.
All right. Well, let's close with your work-life balance. What do you do when you're not working?
So I have my wife, Laura. We've been married almost 10 years, and we have 2 beautiful kids. My daughter, Evelyn, just turned 4. My son, Owen, just turned 9 months. We love to travel when we can. Her family and her are really close, and we're really close with my family. They live in Denver, Colorado. My family does. Her family lives in Cleveland, Tennessee. So right now, at this point in my life, having my daughter 4 years ago forced me to approach work here differently. I significantly lightened the load on myself. Having my daughter forced me to leave work at 3 or 4 instead of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing. And it makes you think, why wasn't I doing this 10 years ago? Why was, instead of working, 10, 11 hour days, why was I working 12 and 13 hour days? And it wasn't necessary. So, right now, all my time is devoted to my family. It's nice to be able to, most of my best friends are all, industry people here in Middle Tennessee. And so we get together a lot. We go on a lot of golf trips. My family, wife and I like to travel, go to the beach with the kids, and we love Nashville more than anything. And one of the reasons I saw potential in this job, I saw nowhere to go but up. It was one of the really big draws. But honestly, Nashville, I tell people all the time, I mean, you've got 10 state parks within 30 miles. You've got 2 lakes. You've got the Titans, the Predators, the Sounds. We have a soccer team. We've got a racetrack. We've got Broadway, which is the last. But the food, the music scene, just everything about the city is great. My wife and I live in East Nashville.
Yep.
It's kind of a fun little eclectic part of town, and just feel really like it has a lot to offer. So we've enjoyed it. Had the opportunity to go possibly to some other clubs before I took this position, and it worked out really well. We love where we live. This has been a great club to work for. I love working for Stephen Leah Smith. All the other department heads here, everyone gets along really well. It's a fun environment. So Nashville in itself has just a lot to offer. And I think that's one of the reasons my wife and I truly just love where we live. And most of my time right now, I don't have a ton of free time with the 2 young kids, but it's a blast. And I've had some really good advice from other supers and sales reps and talking about that work-life balance. Once I had kids, it forced me to look at this job a little bit differently.
Yep. And
my demands for, my assistants, I don't want to say that demands went down, but my old school thinking of, everyone's got to work insane, ridiculous amount of hours. It's not really a reality anymore.
Yeah.
My assistant's wife watches both of my kids. They live right across the street from the golf course.
Wow.
So I actually bring my kids to work every morning from 5:30 to about 6:15. And then I take them to daycare. So my daughter is, she's learning a lot of Spanish. The crew loves interacting with both kids. So that's been pretty cool. I think it's helped in her developing some good social skills with adults. She seems to, handle adult environments really well. So that's been neat. And then she does, both kids love riding around the golf course.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes my daughter, hey Dad, want to go ride, want to go hit golf balls. And after a long day, as much as I love this club and I don't always want to come back after I go pick them up. And but I would love both kids to get into golf. It's offered me so many opportunities. I've traveled all over the world playing golf. I've, worked all over the United States. I think 5 or 6 different states total worth of different country clubs that I've been at over the 23-year period.
Thank you, Dan, for finding time in a busy day to chat with me. And thank you for what you do for TTA. Don't miss an episode of Tennessee Turfgrass. Subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. You can also visit us at theturfzone.com.
You've been listening to The Turf Zone. Thank you to our sponsors, including Buy Sod, world-class service on demand. Visit us online at www.buysod.com. For more episodes of The Turf Zone, visit theturfzone.com and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app.